Welcome back, college football fans, to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, the channel created by the college football fan for the college football fan, the channel where we examine, discuss, honor, and celebrate all things college football across the entire college football landscape. I'm your usual host, Blair Parks. Thank you very much for being here. What I've got on tap for you today is my preview and prediction episode for the second semifinal of this year's college football playoff bracket, and that will be the Cotton Bowl between number 5 Texas and number 8 Ohio State. But before I go ahead and break the game down, I just want to say, as always, thank you for your continued support, your time, your attention for the channel. This past season has resulted in an absolute smash for the channel, a great success, but I want to find more college football fans just like you. So please like, share, subscribe, rate, tell your fellow college football brothers and sisters to check me out here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. And if this is your first time with me, or if you've been with me before, you know exactly what I'm going to say next. I always encourage, welcome, and ask for your participation via your comments, because without you, none of this is possible. You are the reason why I do this, why I sit here and share my love, passion, and desire for all things college football. You fuel these episodes, so please get involved, exercise your right, your college football voice, blow up the comments section below to any of the opinions, insights, hot takes. Please respond to those kindly, and I will get back to each and every one of you much sooner than later via those comments. And please subscribe. Can't wait to hear from you. So hold on. This is going to be a fun episode. All right, so back to the lecture at hand. All right, so the Cotton Bowl is Friday the 10th down in Big D, the Dallas Metroplex, more specifically inside Jerry World there in Arlington. And the details on this game is, as I mentioned, Texas is the 5th seed in this year's college football playoff bracket against number 8 Ohio State. Now, currently, Texas is a 5.5-point underdog. This is very strange, to where the first semifinal matchup between Penn State and Notre Dame, the lower seed, Penn State, is also a dog at this point. So Texas is a 5.5-point underdog to Ohio State, and the over-under currently is right at 53 points. So before I go ahead and break down this matchup, and what I'm going to share with you are some stats. I'm also going to identify my impact players, teams on each side of the ball that I'm going to be watching out for, and those are the cats who really can sway things in the direction of their team based on their efforts. And I will also share with you the key unit for each team, to where I'm putting this unit on notice, to where they've got to step up, execute, show up, and show out. And finally, I will then give you my keys to victory, followed by my official prediction for who I see winning this game and moving on to the national championship game. All right, so let's go ahead and review. I want to bring you up to speed, or remind you how these two teams got here. Let's start with the higher seed Texas. Overall, they're 13-2. They were the runner-ups in the SEC conference. They lost to Georgia in that conference's title game. The first round of the playoff, they defeated number 12 Clemson 38-24. And then the previous round, an absolute thriller, an instant classic. They held on to defeat number 4 seeded Arizona State, the Big 12 champion, in double overtime, 39-31. And I say held on because they did have a big lead. Second half, it started dwindling away, but they did ultimately get it done, survive, and advance. And at this point, that's what it's all about. And now Ohio State, overall, they're 12-2 on the season. Their 2 losses, not bad losses at all. They lost at number 1 seed in this year's playoff, Oregon, by 1 point, and then lost last game of the year in this year's edition of The Game to their heated rival to the south, Ohio State. Now, yes, that may not be a great loss, but still, I mean, that Michigan team did shock Alabama on the 31st of December in the ReliaQuest Bowl. So the last team that Michigan had lost to was fellow college football playoff participant, the Indiana Hoosiers. All right, and Texas's 2 losses both came at the hands of the Georgia Bulldogs. One in the title game and one in the regular season at Austin at home. All right. Now, how Ohio State got here, first round of the playoff, they absolutely embarrassed number 9 seeded Tennessee 42-17, which, quite frankly, I don't know which was more embarrassing, the outcome, watching that game unfold, or the pre-kickoff routine of the Tennessee, the entire Tennessee roster team coming out with, shirtless, trying to show off maybe an intimidation factor or show off their masculinity in the cold. I mean, I don't know what was more embarrassing, that or, like I said, the outcome of the game. And then in the previous round, Ohio State defeated number 1 seeded Oregon in the Rose Bowl 41-21, avenging their loss in the regular season by 1 point and moving on to the semifinals. Now, when I compare and contrast these 2 teams as far as their paths to this point, I do want to go ahead and share with you which one I believe has had a tougher route to advance and get where we are. Now, Texas, definitely, they were in some ball games. I mean, they had a big lead on Clemson at halftime. The Tigers, to their credit, came back. They did push Texas in the second half and made them sweat just a little bit. And I already mentioned that Arizona State game being a double overtime. So they've had a tough route to get here. They've been challenged. But I've got to give a slight nod in the advantage for a tougher road here to the Ohio State Buckeyes. I mean, how they defeated handedly Tennessee and then knocking off, hands down, the best team in the nation from start to finish by 20 points in the Oregon Ducks. So I believe, and they've looked much better than Texas at this point. So I do believe Ohio State does have the advantage for a tougher road getting to this current position where they are. Now, before I move into the stats, I've got to share with you early on, there are so many storylines with this matchup. It's awesome. This is going to be an epic game. And I don't like to use that word epic too often, but there's so much riding on this game. I mean, for head coach Ryan Day of Ohio State, after that, 4th consecutive loss to Michigan, I know there's all these rumblings and rumors about him being on the hot seat. He's going to be fired, win, lose, or draw, natty title or bust, whatever. And there's so much on the line for him. And also for the Texas Longhorns and the SEC Conference, which this was their inaugural season as part of the SEC. Can Texas defeat Ohio State, move on to the national championship game, help the SEC save face and rebound from what's been an absolutely brutal bowl season for the SEC, especially via what their expectations are in the Southeastern Conference? So a lot of storylines with this game. 2 proud programs, both blue bloods. Man, I can't wait to watch this on Friday night. Can't wait. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to go and start breaking down this matchup now more specifically. And I want to start with the stats because stats just don't lie. I get it. Sometimes all schedules aren't made equally. I get that. But stats are always something that you can look at to kind of get a good idea of how you believe this game is going to play out. And I want to start off with some stats from the defensive side of the ball because these are two great, stout defenses. I mean, this is going to be a great defensive battle if you are a fan of defense. And just to further back that up, I wanted to share with you what these teams' rankings are via the total defensive ranks. And I'll start with the higher seed. First, Texas. Overall, Texas is third in the nation out of I believe 133 FBS Division I teams in total defense, while Ohio State, a little bit better than them, they are number one, first overall in total defense. So very, very similar there. You really can't say Ohio State has an advantage because of how close they are, but wow, that is impressive enough. Now, to further break those numbers down, because of what these two teams want to establish and how they want to, and what their keys are to victory, at least what I believe, is rush defense, all right? So this would be how many yards per game do these teams surrender on the ground. And Texas is 14th overall in the nation, only giving up 111 yards per game, while Ohio State is 5th overall in the nation, giving up 92 yards per game. And another thing is passing yards allowed per game, because both of these two teams they have a plethora of perimeter superstars, playmakers, men among dudes. So we definitely have to know, what do these two teams surrender game in, game out via the vertical pass game? And Texas is third overall in the nation, only giving up 166 yards per game via the pass, while Ohio State is first overall, only giving up 152 passing yards per game. I mean, this is going to be nip-tuck the entire way. I mean, when these teams face off, when they look across the sideline at each other, it is going to be the best defense either team has faced all season long, all right? It's going to almost be the defenses, I think, ultimately will cancel themselves out, but it's going to be impressive to watch, all right? Now let's look at some stats from the offensive side of the ball. So overall scoring offense, because these two teams can light up that scoreboard. I mean, one has been a little bit inconsistent, but they have the personnel to do it. So when it comes down to overall scoring offense, Texas is 21st in the nation, scoring 34 points per game on average, while Ohio State is a little bit better than that. I believe they are 11th at 36 points per game. I mean, so both of these teams, like I said, they can put up fireworks from an offensive standpoint. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Now, one thing you have to look at, when you have a matchup like this that is good on good, and that's all we're going to have at this point, you have to look at the margins, right? What are the variables and who's going to play cleaner? That's what ultimately could lead to victory for either one of these teams. So I wanted to take a look at the penalties per game, all right? As far as on average, how many penalties do these teams on average make or have, all right? So Texas is 91st in the nation. They average 6 penalties per game, while Ohio State is 7th with only 4 penalties per game on average. So overall, both of these teams are very disciplined, but Ohio State does have the advantage there. And going along with winning the battles, the small battles that win the war, I wanted to look at turnover margin, because I really expected both of these defenses to really have a pretty legit turnover margin, but I was really surprised by how low it is for both teams. And to share that with you right now, as far as turnover margin, Texas is 40th in the nation. They are +6. So they are +6 with turnover margin. And Ohio State is behind them. They are 50th overall with only a +3 turnover margin. So Like I said, I expected these defenses to really create a lot more turnovers than this, but hey, that's all right. All right. So another thing I had to look at, all right, especially after the previous round, all right, with special teams and field goal kicking, that can be a uber differential when it comes down to matchups that are going to be this close or could be this close, is how sound are you in your kicking game, all right? Because in this kind of a matchup, every single possession, every single point that you can produce is going to matter. So I wanted to look at what the field goal percentages were for the starting place kickers for each team. So for Texas, and their primary place kicker is Bert Auburn. He was 16 of 25 this season, good for 64%. Not a great clip. It could be better, but hey, it could be worse. Let's look at the glass half full. Now on the opposing side, Ohio State's place kicker, Jaden Fielding, is 11 for 15 on the season, good for 73%, so slight advantage there for Ohio State. But I have to say, with Jay Fielding only attempting 15 field goals, that's not a lot. Either that could be that kind of just backs up how dynamic, explosive, and how solid the Ohio State offense is to where they're just not going to kick, or maybe they just haven't been a lot of opportunities for Mr. Fielding. All right? So when I look at these stats overall, I wanted to go ahead and identify what team has the advantage just based on that. And when you look at defense, offense, and special teams, the advantage is slightly leaning towards Ohio State. All right? They're very close in a lot of these categories, but there is definitely a little bit of difference, and it does favor Ohio State from a stats point of view. All right? So please, anything I say, please respond. Light up the comment section. The floor is yours. I can't wait to hear from you. Let's just speak and act as adults. I know we're all capable of doing that. So I can't wait to hear from you. So please get involved, comment, like, share, rate, subscribe, click that notification button. All right, so now that the stats are behind us, I want to move in now and identify for you the impact players that I see playing big roles for both teams in this winner-take-all matchup. Let's start with the higher seed, Texas. You know, it's strange because when I say higher seed, that means they are better, but the higher seed would be number 8. It's a bigger number than 5, but I think you know what I mean. It's a little confusing, all right? So let's start with Texas. So it starts right now, impact player number 1, and I have 4 from each team. It's got to be quarterback Quinn Ewers. And will the real Quinn Ewers please stand up? Just like Slim Shady, okay? It really comes down to what version of Quinn Ewers is going to show up in this game. Is it going to be the Quinn Ewers of the Texas A&M game or the game at Arkansas, the Quinn Ewers that really has struggled with consistency at times? Or is it going to be the Quinn Ewers who showed up and showed out and balled out in overtime last week against Arizona State? All right? This guy has all of the tools and weapons that Texas needs for him to lead them to victory. It just comes down to which one is going to show up. That's a huge key. And that really could be ultimately the main key for victory or loss for Texas. Next impact player I've got to give a shout out to. He earned it after last week's performance. I'm talking about wide receiver for Texas, Matthew Golden. I mean, this guy had a career day. If they needed at big moments, he was there for big catches against Arizona State. I think that momentum, that confidence will, and needs to carry over to this game. So I do expect Matthew Golden to have another big game. I mean, they have got to feed him. They've got to take their chances down the field, try to get some one-on-ones, and just have Quinn put it up. And Mr. Golden has got to make some plays. He's got to come up big. All right? Next impact player for Texas, I'm going to go and identify offensive lineman Kelvin Banks Jr., one of the best tackles in all the land, but he is going to have his work cut out for him because on the opposing side, there's two absolute beasts at defensive end for Ohio State that are going to be licking their chops to get at Quinn Ewers, and they're going to want to set up shop and basically have to pay rent to live in the backfield. So Kelvin Banks Jr., he's got to come up big. He has got to be able to slow them down, protect Quinn Ewers, and open some holes for Texas's rushing attack. All right? So you got to be watching that matchup. All right? And I will name those two individuals for Ohio State here shortly. Now, my last impact player for Texas, I already mentioned him. It's got to be place kicker Bert Auburn. He had a day to forget last week. He had multiple chances to win the game for Texas, but he has got to move on. In a game like this, special teams are special, all right? I'm an Iowa fan. Punting is winning, so you know where I stand when it comes down to special teams, okay? That you must be sound in your kicking game, all right? Not just place kicking, but snapping, punting, bringing punts in. You cannot have any special teams gaffes in this kind of a matchup. You can't, all right? So my key unit, the unit that I'm going to be paying the most attention to, that I think can either sway for victory or defeat for Texas, it's going to be exactly that, the special teams, all right? They need to get something special from this unit. I mean, they cannot miss any kicks. They can't muff any punts, whether it's kicks or returns, and their returners need to flip the field. They need to set the Texas offense up in good position, all right? Because I think I do give the slight nod to the Texas special teams, and I think they really need to be DEFCON 1 level to help Texas over the finish line, hoist the trophy, and move on. So I'm going to be watching the special teams for Texas, all right? Now, the keys to victory for Texas, I think when it comes down to it, this is what ultimately can and will turn the tide for Texas. If they do this, they must win in the margins and those variables, like I said. Special teams must be special. They have to win the penalty battle. They cannot be penalized because normally, more often than not, this being a fan like myself, these penalties usually always come at the worst times. On third and short on offense, you convert, it gets called back, or it's third and long on defense. You think you get the other team off the field, there's a penalty, automatic first down. They must win the penalty battle. And the field position, they have to win that, and they must win the turnover battle. If Texas can do those things, they're going to have a chance. They can make it a fourth quarter game. I do believe they can if they do these things, and they will have a puncher's chance to down Ohio State. All right? So now let's move on to the number 8 seed, the Ohio State Buckeyes. My impact players for the Bucknuts. I got to start off with the man-child, freshman, All-American stud, Jeremiah Smith, who maybe has been the best player overall in the entire college football playoffs. I mean, the guy has been a one-man wrecking crew. Texas has got to try to slow him down. I mean, the guy is going to get his yards. He's going to get his receptions, but you just have to try to contain and lessen those the best that you can. Try to keep him in front of you. Don't give him multiple touchdown receptions. Just try to contain him, but don't let him run wild all over the defensive secondary. Next for Ohio State, kind of vice versa, safety Caleb Downs. He has got to have a good game. He has got to be able to shut down wide receiver Matthew Golden for Texas. He has to wrap up, be aggressive, and not have any failed or blown assignments. I think the defensive secondaries are going to be huge for both teams. All right, they just are. all right? Because both of these two teams don't necessarily want to be one-dimensional. They want to be able to both mix it up with the pass and the rush attack. Next impact player for Ohio State, I told you I would name these two individuals, both defensive ends, Captain Jack Sawyer, and the other, his counterpart, fellow defensive end, JT Tuimoloau for Ohio State. These guys make a living by throwing off timing, being in the backfield, just padding those stats with TFLs and sacks. That's why Kelvin Banks Jr. has got to be able, and the rest of that Texas O-line, they have to be able to slow them down. Some way, somehow, give Quinn Ewers or Arch Manning some time, and you've got to hold that point of attack for your rushing game to get established. So I'll be watching both those DNs throughout the night. It's going to be a great, great individual matchup to watch. All right. Now, my keys to victory for Ohio State, kind of like Texas, if they're able to execute, these are the things I believe that can push them over the top. Is first and foremost, we know that they have stud players in the perimeter. All right. Wide receivers, abundant. They do. But I think a key to victory for Ohio State, they must be able to establish their ground game. They have TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins in the backfield. Let them get out and run. And also, quarterback Will Howard is also a little bit fleet of foot as well. He can also make things happen. He can, be that guy who he's on the move, tucks and runs it, extend plays, move the pocket, all right? I think if Ohio State is able to rush for 175 yards combined between those three cats or more, I think that could end up being the overall deciding factor for this game. The other keys to victory for Ohio State, the quarterback must go down, and he must go down hard. Like Al Davis said, quarterback pressure and being in the backfield. If they're able to get to Quinn Ewers often and early, it's going to be a long night for Texas. So Ohio State must generate some quarterback pressure. And the final key to victory for Ohio State is try to make Texas one-dimensional. And what I mean by that is I think Quinn Ewers, the way that they are looking right now, I don't think he's going to be able to beat a team through the air by himself. I think he is dependent on some rushing attack. So if Ohio State can make Texas one-dimensional, whether it's through the air or on the ground, making them have to do something when they don't want to, really when they have to, I think it bodes well for the Ohio State defense and their team overall. All right? So please, light up the comment section. Let me know what you think about my takes, my insights, and my projections, and what you think. Just overall, what a great season it's been. All right, so now it's time for my prediction. What do I have? I mean, so much riding on this game. As I already mentioned, SEC pride, Ryan Day's job, Big Ten pride. I mean, you can't, this is like Hollywood written. This script is like something out of a dream, all right? And to give you a little hint as far as which way that I am leaning and who I predict is going to win, I'm going to channel my inner Matthew McConaughey. Say, man, you got a joint? It'd be a lot cooler if you did. So that being said, I'm taking the Ohio State Buckeyes. Final score 37-17. They down Texas, advance to the national championship game, and I have them projected to face Penn State. That's right, I project and predict an all Big Ten national championship game. All right, so that's it. Thank you once again for your support, your time, your attention. What a great season it's been. Please, if you want to get notifications of my upcoming and next episodes, click that subscribe button. Like, share, please, I beg you, comment, get involved. I can't wait to hear from all you Texas fans, all you Buckeye fans, and all you college football fans from east to west, north to south, and everywhere in between. So until next time, enjoy the rest of your work week or your school week. I will be back sometime this weekend. I might have a reaction and recap to both of these semifinals. So until then, take care, peace, prosperity, go Hawks as always, and thank you from the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Take care. Bye-bye.